Well, it's that time. It's my week 6 diary. This week we're going to have a look at my training for the previous week, as well as how my day 4 training is organised and why I do it and the exercises I do inside it. Also, we will have a look at the comp at 618 Barbell, the Yuris Stern Cup, the inaugural year of that one. It's a CAPO competition, and it's named after one of the people who are very prominent in the CAPO Federation. He died a bit over 12 months ago, and I had the opportunity to meet his lovely wife, Andrea. Before we do that, we'll get into the housekeeping part of it. If you like what you're seeing and hearing here today, get down the bottom there, hit like, share, and subscribe for me. That would be great. And most of all, I want to hear any comments or feedbacks from any of you and what you've got to say about my videos and that sort of stuff. I'm happy to listen to anything you've got to say. Also, I am a coach. I do training from my place or online, whichever is easiest for you to do. Also, if you have any questions at all, if anything that you want to ask me, just send me a message either here or on my socials in the description below, and I'll be happy to help you out, all right? If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll try and find the answer for you if I can't find it straight away. And if I can't find an answer, I'll put you on to someone who can answer the question for you, or send you to a podcast or YouTube channel that'll have the information that you're looking for in there. All right. I'm never too proud to say when I can't help, but I am always happy to help when I can. All right. So now we get on to my diary for the week. So this week's diary saw a bit of a change up. This week's training, saw a bit of a change up for me. It was half a normal week, and I did the last 5 days before the comp as a deload before the competition, which worked all right. I was feeling quite fresh going into it. The first 2 days were normal. The first day 1 and day 2 trainings for the week were pretty normal. The only difference was I went to 618 Barbell to do my bench day, just to use the competition bench they had there to get a feel for it before the day. Haven't done a lot of benching on the comp benches, so a little bit more exposure to it doesn't do any good, doesn't do any harm, sorry. The training went really well. I was really happy with it. It was 108 kilos for my heavy comp bench for 2 reps. So it was moving really, really well, and which filled me with a fair bit of confidence coming into the competition this weekend. Also, the next day, the day 2 though, that squat day wasn't real flash. The last couple of squat days, that one including it, have not been the greatest. I have not felt overly strong underneath the bar. Moving the weights and everything that I've got on my plan and my target, and for the reps that I'm sort of looking to do for them, but it's still, wasn't feeling 100% or that great underneath it. That could have been a bit of just built up fatigues kicking in. I don't know. I'll talk more about that when we get down to the roundup for the competition at 618. I'll have a bit more of an explanation of what was going on with that there. And that day basically finished up normal day. The only real change to those first 2 days for my training was that I had to do them in the afternoon. The first day, or day 1, my bench day was done at 618, as I said before. But because they're casual visits, they don't open for that until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I couldn't get in there. So I had to change my day 2 training to being in the afternoon as well. That's because I normally train first thing in the morning. On those first 2 days, I trained in the afternoon. I don't think that really had any bearing on my squats at all. I felt pretty fresh and relaxed and all that sort of stuff. So that didn't help. But regardless of that, moving on. The rest of my week I did as a deload. So I only trained once more between then and the actual competition, and that was on the Friday morning. I did a 75% lift day. So basically I did squats at 75%. I did my deadlift at 75%. And I've found, just through my own personal experience and probably a little bit of doing silly things over the last couple of comps, is that if I lift my opener on the bench, I feel a lot more confident with the bench going into the day. So I do my opener for one rep, and then I follow up the rest of it with a couple of 2 or 3 sets of 75% bench. I don't know why that seems to work for me, but it does. For some reason, it may be just a mental thing that I have with bench. I don't know. But anyway, that was pretty much my my week as far as training went. There was no real changes to it other than the deload, like I said, and that little bit of a break leading into an actual competition is always good. For me, I find that the 5 days seem to have worked pretty good. In the past, I've sort of taken the whole week off, and that's also felt good. I thought because the competition's on a Sunday this time, I thought I'd see how I go with having a break from Wednesday through to the Sunday and see if they gave me a good amount of rest. And it's worked this time, so I'll try it again for the next one and see how it goes for the GPC one. That should hopefully be a little bit better for that one. Bear with me for a sec. And if it does, I'll probably keep it in there for a while until it stops working. As I've said in other videos, if something's working, keep doing it until it stops working, and then that's when you look at other ways of getting around whatever the problem is. And that's pretty much my diary for this week. So next week will see me pretty much back to normal training again. Then we'll get into that next week. But now I think before we go through a roundup of the comp, which I'll do last, we'll just run through my day 4 training and give you a closer look at that and what that normally entails, just so you've got an idea of what that is. And that'll round out basically what I do each week. My day 4 training. Okay, my day 4 training, and what do we get into there? Starts off as per normal with my warm-up. Then I do a superset of a squat exercise and a bench exercise, followed by my comp deadlift, followed by some volume deadlift. Then I do some dumbbell rows with some accessory work at the end there, which is normally bicep. My warm-up, obviously, like I've said before, is longer than normal. Old codger, like to make sure all the joints are clanking along all right before I get started. Just scared of getting hurt is the main thing. I'm trying to avoid injury as much as possible. But I do the pause squat supersetted with the bench for a few reasons. I'll start with the squats. The pause squats is my second day of squatting. They're sort of a light to medium squat as far as stress goes. They're done at the moment about 115 kilos for 3 sets of 5 reps, paused at the bottom. I like to pause at the bottom, obviously, for getting me out of the bottom of the squat. It helps me develop that start from a dead stop strength, which can help you in some situations, but also gives you some drive strength when it comes to the competition day. It also helps me feel that I'm confident at hitting depth as well, is one of the other things that it helps out with. Also, I've put it on that day because it's a good warm-up for deadlifts for the lower part of the body, and it's also something that I do on comp day as well. You always squat before you deadlift on comp day, so it also works in with that feeling. It's a light to medium exercise because previously I was doing, on the last prep, I was doing the 3 days a week of squatting. So I've sort of had to work something in that wasn't too stressful, but still gave me a reasonable amount of work. And where before I'd do my pause squats leading up to a comp, I'd only do 2 sets of them. I added in the extra set, just add in a bit of extra volume work, as I'm only squatting twice a week for this prep. Alrighty, so then I work in I superset it with the bench press. The bench press is a medium bench press, and it's my third day of benching because I worked in the 3 days of benching, and that seems to have worked very well for this preparation. So that's really good. That's one of the reasons why it's in there on this day. The second reason is I like the feeling of squatting and benching before I deadlift, because once again, that's the same as your competition. You squat, you bench, and you deadlift, and it gives that same sort of feeling of doing the work, or physical preparedness, as they say, or general physical preparedness, GPP. If you've heard that term before, that's basically what it's about. It's just getting you prepared for what you're training for. And the other reason the bench is in there on that day, it's my medium stress day for benching that week, whereas day one's my high stress day, day 3 is my low stress day for it, and day 4 is my medium stress day. It's just a way of saying how hard it is, or how hard the work is. There's different ways. Some people say intensity and other things. That's just how much it stresses the body is what you're looking at there. And for me, it's a medium stress. How I gauge that is I use the volume work that I do on day 1 on my high stress day, and because that's volume work's done comp style, where I have a pause at the bottom, I just don't pause it in this, and I find that alleviates a lot of the stress of alleviates a lot of that extra stress, or takes a lot of that extra stress away from the bench, and gives me a good solid workout as well at the same time. And I do that for 3 sets of 5 as well, supersetted with the squats. And basically superset just means that I do the squat, then as soon as I finish the squat, I start my rest timer for my 5-minute rest. I go over, I do the bench, and then I wait for that rest timer to finish, and then I do that 3 times. Once I've done that, I move on to my competition deadlift. I'm reasonably warmed up here, so I don't have to do anywhere near as many warm-up lifts to get up to the competition weight. It's basically more just feeling the weight as I'm going up to get my body used to that. Normally it would be whatever was in my program, but this week, as I said, I didn't do it. The way it worked this week was I dropped it out and used the actual comp day as my deadlift day. As it was probably supposed to be done for 2 reps, I still only got to do it for 1 rep, but I did 3 heavy deadlifts on the comp. But we'll go a bit more into that when we do the comp. Then I follow that with my volume work. That's done at 10% less, or 10% of my 1RM less than what my actual heavy comp bench was. And there's a slight difference there because it's not actually 10% less than the weight I lifted for my comp deadlift, sorry. It's 10% of my 1RM less, which is probably just a couple of kilos in this sense, but the bigger the numbers get, the more of a difference it actually makes. So that volume work is basically was done this week was normally done for whatever the thing, and I think this week it would have been 3 sets of 2, and I do them Ed Cohen style. So I keep the tension all the way through the set. So I just lift the barbell from the start as per normal, but I lower it under tension like you would say with an RDL until the barbell touches the ground. And then as soon as it just lightly touches the ground, I do the 2nd rep and do the same process to let it back down again. The big difference you see there between the two is when you're lifting the heavy competition bench, you like to get the weight down to the ground as fast as possible, so as to cause you the least amount of stress, or use up the least amount of energy on the day, so you've got as much energy in reserve for your next couple of attempts. The reason I do it Ed Cohen style is it just helps to develop that bit of extra strength and hopefully a little bit of muscle mass. Probably not so much muscle mass when you're doing it for only a couple of reps, but it definitely develops that strength aspect when you're getting ready for a competition. And I found that's really helped me out well, and I'm feeling pretty confident going into the competitions with how I've been training for the deadlift. So following my deadlifts, I have a dumbbell back row, which I set up on an incline bench, sort of like a seal row. I don't actually have a seal bench. Saw a really cool way to fix that up on the internet using a power rack, which I don't know why I didn't think of, but some other much smarter man than me obviously has thought of it. So you just basically make up a bench that sits across the two safety bars in your power rack, and use that as a seal bench, which is a pretty smart way of doing it. So in the next few months I might make up one of them and see how it goes. But anyway, back to that, digressing a little bit there. I set up an incline bench. I have to put them on 2 bricks to lift me up high enough off the ground, but I sort of try and simulate that seal bench using the incline bench that way. This is done in a myo-rep style, looking for 12 reps in the first set to progress the weight. So what does that mean? So in the first set, if I hit 12 reps or more, the weight goes up the following week. If I don't hit the 12 reps in the first set, pardon me, I leave the weight the same for the following week. That's how the progression works. How do the myo reps work? The myo reps basically work by whatever my first set reps are, where I've come to failure in that first set, is the rep totals I try to hit for the next 2 sets. So if I say, just to make it easy, I hit 12 on the first set and that's where my failure was. In the next set, and I only get 9 out and then fail, I put the weights down, rest for 5 to 20 seconds in that area there, then do as many as I can up until I get through to 12 total reps for that set. Depending on where you fail, you might have to do that little bit of a short rest a couple of times. So if to say in the third set, I only get to 7, I have that bit of a rest. I might only get 3 more reps out up to 10, then have a bit more of a rest, then get 2 more reps out up to the 12, and that's when I stop. It's very similar. It's pretty much just effective rep training, the same as rest pause work goes. It's a form of rest pause, just with higher reps, that's all. I like how it works, and it just adds a bit of variety and spice to the life. Woohoo! A bit of variety and spice. Keeps us all interested. But I find that they work pretty good. The reason I don't do a barbell row or anything like that because the heavy comp bench and the heavy comp deadlift, I keep saying bench instead of deadlift, the heavy comp deadlift and the volume deadlifts are quite stressful on the lower back. And to help keep that pressure off it, or alleviate some of that pressure and still get some good back work in, I do the dumbbell rows. Plus, because you can't do them for anywhere near the same amount of weight, you get a good stimulus into your back with it without having to overly stress your body much more to get that stimulus. So I find that they work really well there. I'd probably do it a bit different if I wasn't coming up to a competition. Just trying to keep all my stress aimed in the specifics of the actual comp lifts that I'm doing. So as far as the deadlift goes, it's very easy to get overtrained on the deadlift. So as I mentioned previously, in the weekly diary, I dropped my day 3 and day 4 training this week to coincide with the competition, to help give me a bit of a deload before the comp, as well as keep my normal training in for day 1 and day 2. The reason that it worked out like that, or the reason that I've done it like that, is, I think I mentioned it last week, was that my day 4 training from the week that was just gone, which was my heavy deadlift, was my actual comp day. So whatever I was going to more or less lift on that training day for day 4, I lifted on the comp day, and I treated the comp day as training for my deadlift. And as with that, I've treated day 1 and day 2 of this week's training that's coming up after the competition as my day 1 and day 2 training that's coming up this week after the competition was done on competition day for my heavy lifts. So my heavy squat and my heavy bench were done at the competition. Because they were done on the Sunday, that meant day 1 and day 2 training I would have to miss anyway, so I used them weights as my competition weights on the Sunday. So that meant I could still take that 3 days off after the competition to give my body a nice break without having to miss out on any training. I've sort of tried to include it that way through my training plan, so I could still have a small deload leading into that first comp to see how that 5-day deload went, as I mentioned before in my diary, and when I was doing my diary for the week, as well as give me a 3-day break from lifting after the competition, give my body a break from lifting before I go into my day 3, which is a lower stress day anyway, so that's good. And then back to my normal training on day 4, which will be my heavy deadlift again. And it'll be my medium squat with my medium bench, and then my heavy deadlift done after. I might gauge that fatigue level with my heavy deadlift to see how that's panning. If that's still a bit high, I might hold off doing that until Saturday, just to give my body that little bit more of a break. And that's basically, I'll just see how that goes on the day, just to see how that pans out for me. If I'm feeling relatively okay and not too stressed, I'll do the heavy deadlift day. I might cut the volume back a little bit and not do any of my accessory work that day, just to help keep that stress down and help with recovery working into the coming week when I move back into my normal training for the next competition. But regardless of that, we'll get into a bit more of that next time I do a diary entry and explain how that went and tell you how all that went. So my diary next week will be a little bit less, with probably a very similar explanation to what I gave just here with this day 4 thing. But now we will head into looking at the competition from 618 Barbell this weekend. Alrighty, getting into the roundup at the comp at 618 Barbell, the Yuris Stern Cup, the first one of those. As I said earlier, it was named after one of the CAPO, big people in CAPO. He passed away a bit over 12 months ago, from what I was told. And I met his lovely wife, Andrea, who's now the president of the CAPO Federation. It was nice to meet you there today. First up, I'd like to thank 618 Barbell for putting on the comp. That was a wonderfully done thing, well organised, well ran. I'd like to thank BJ and Jac for all the work they did and how great their hospitality was and having them people there. Great people, great friendly people. I'd like to thank all the volunteers. Without the volunteers that come in on the day to do it, it would absolutely not go ahead in any way, shape or form. So huge shout out to those people there. Amazing. Thank you very much. To the judges, thank you for doing that. The spotters, that was wonderful. The live stream was excellent. Had my mum watching from Queensland. She had a bit of a look at it. She said it was really good, high quality, and she loved the commentators. She thought they did a great job. The day, it went really well. It ran pretty smoothly. I was out the back, so I didn't really get to see too much of that sort of stuff. But from what I've been told, it ran really well. Can't thank everyone enough for the efforts that they put into putting it on. It was a wonderful day. I really enjoyed it. I'm not the most animated bloke when it comes to like going off with those sort of things, like that sort of shit and all that sort of stuff. But I was really impressed with how it ran and everything. I had a great day there. And everyone there was great fun. Saw a couple of familiar faces and met a lot of new people. Met some people from Queensland that had only been down here for 3 years, that only lived about 300k away from where I grew up. That's not that far in Queensland. So he lived in Rockhampton. So you go a long way to meet a lot of people from a small area. So it was just a great day. So if I haven't said it enough already, it was a fantastic day. Can't thank everyone enough for how much fun I had there. And lastly, huge shout out to BJ. I found out that the belt that I've been using is illegal. He lent me the first belt that he ever owned. If you're a lifter, you know how important that is, if you've still got it. He said it's been through a lot. I was glad to use it, and it helped me out heaps in the squats. Thank you very much for that, BJ. It was very much appreciated. Without that, I wouldn't have probably done anywhere near as well as I did with the squats, so thank you. All right, let's move it on to the actual bit of the roundup of the competition itself. Just a quick run through if you've never seen or been to a powerlifting competition. It's 3 different lifts, a squat, a bench, and a deadlift in that order. You get 3 attempts in each of those lifts, and your heaviest successful lift in each of those lifts gets added together to give you a total, and that's how they find out who wins, loses, or comes or draws. For most of everyone that goes to those things, this is a competition against yourself. Although there's classes and weight classes and age classes and all that, I'm an old bastard competing in the really big bastards area. I think it was the 125 to 140 kilos, weighed in at about 129 point something. Some people, that's a big part of their competition process. For me, the weighing in part of it, I don't really give too much of a shit about. I'm just there for me and to see how much I can lift and to have a lot of fun doing it. And, like, the support and getting into the day with everyone that's there is just makes it such a great and wonderful and fun day. It's like 5 hours of lifting of your day that disappear, and it feels like it was only like an hour. It just goes really, really fast for you. Anyway, moving on. The first round was squats. I got all 3 of these. My first one was 162.5 kilos. Once again, like I said before last week when about planning it, it was something that I've lifted at least 2 or 3 times before for more than 1 rep. So that was my first one. My next one was my previous PB, which is I was looking at making my opener for next week, but my opener might be say 170 next week. And that moved pretty good. So that was 172.5, and that went down and up pretty easy. I didn't have too much trouble with that. That was my old PB. And the next one was 175. I was up in the air about whether I'd do a 3rd lift going into the day because I wasn't feeling real great with my squats. But that 5-day break, I think, comes back to a bit of the 5-day break helped me out there in getting rid of a bit of excess fatigue, as a phrase I think Mike Israel's coined a few times: fatigue masks fitness, or in this case, fatigue masks strength. So I think it was a bit of a case of that. And I moved 175, although it looked like it was a very slow up. It wasn't as hard as it sort of, I made it look for myself. I'm a slow lifter. I don't lift with a great lot of explosiveness. I still had a bit left in me, even though it looked like it was a bit of a grind. It wasn't easy. Fucking hell. No, I mean, the world wasn't easy. Not easy, but it wasn't as hard as I made it look either. But yes, it was still good. At work, I got a 2.5 kilo PB. I've got a registered comp PBs now. Then I've got something to move forward from. Moving on to my bench, I opened that with 102.5 kilos. I accidentally wrote down on the day that was my previous PB, and it wasn't. So sorry for that. I didn't realise that at the time until I was watching the video back, and I heard one of the commentators say it wasn't actually my personal best beforehand. My previous personal best was 107.5 in a novice comp. So I opened with the 102.5 because it's something that I've lifted once again numerous times for more than 1 rep. And that's the idea of it. You want to make your first rep something that's relatively easy to move for you, so you're got something on the board for the day. My second lift was a personal best, 110. So that's a 2.5 kilo PB for me there as well. So that was pretty happy with that. That moved really, really a lot better than I thought it was going to, which led to my 3rd attempt at 115, which didn't go up. I was a little bit disappointed that it didn't go up after the 110 moved so well. And I think this is now, they say a definition of a fool is someone who keeps making the same mistake over and over again. Well, welcome to me. I'm the big fool. This will be the 3rd time I've done something similar to that by going up too much on my 3rd lift because the second one moved too really, really well. I should have just went up to 2.5 kilos, especially with the pressing, because the pressing dies off real quick in comparison to, say, squats and deadlifts, just because of the amount of muscle mass. The amount of muscle and motor units you can recruit to move the weight with the chest. It's a slightly smaller group of muscles that you're using to move the weight, so it sort of peters out a lot quicker than those other two big muscle mass movers do. But no, I didn't get it. I got it to my sticking point, which is about mid-range for me. Getting it off the chest is always relatively okay. I'm easy, pretty get it off the chest to about that 3 or 4 inch mark above my chest. And then I sort of get stuck there. I have a bit of trouble. Not so much with the lockout. If I can get it past that bit, it's about this much of a gap. If I can just get it through there, the lockout part's easy. I get the lockout, I can lock my arms out pretty well. It's just getting it, that middle area is just a bit of a prick for me, unfortunately. Working on that, as you've seen in my videos, getting it up there, and I think that's helping. And I think the lifting the 3 days a week is helping with that as well. So that went up pretty good, the second one, and that felt like it was going up until I got stuck, and then I just couldn't get it past that middle area. So I might have to sort of look at working in maybe some pin presses from around there to push it up instead of the floor presses, and see if that helps. That might help me get over that a bit better as well. Something to work on. Anyway, moving on to my deadlifts then. So I opened my deadlifts with 195 kilos. Once again, same premise as the 2 previous lifts. It's something I've lifted before. I can lift for more than 1 rep, and I've done that on numerous occasions. So it was a good lift to open with. It moved really well. And from there, before I do that, I did something new that I hadn't done before. I got the old tilt going on the legs. That does seem to make a difference. It gets a bit of movement going on there. Sorry about this. I got a bit of sleep stuck in my eye still. Just making myself look a bit prettier for all ears. Is that better? Anyway, I did the talc on the thighs thing. It seemed to help. Whether that's psychological again or not, who cares? If it makes you think it helps, then go for it. If it's not going to hinder you, shove it in there. And not in the biblical sense, just in the sense of your routine. The next one I did was 205. This was a 2.5 kilo PB for me as well. So, and that one moved really well. So after that second one, the commentator was egging me on a bit to put 220 on the bit of paper for my next lift. And I probably, as it turned out, the lift I didn't move as fast as the other 2 did, but it was a little bit of a struggle, but still moved relatively easy. It wasn't like super difficult or nothing. It was a little bit of work, but not a great deal of work. And I accidentally wrote 115 down on there, but thinking that I didn't want to overreach in this competition, because I've got the GPC one coming up in a couple to 3 weeks. I stuck 210 kilos on there, which is still for me a 7.5 kilo PB, which was more than good. Extremely happy with. The first time I tried to lift 210 kilograms, I couldn't get it off the ground. The second time I tried it, I got it about halfway up my shins and then put it back down again. And this time I'm happy to say I smashed it out. I got it up 210, so that was a bit of a milestone for me. My next aim is 220, but I got that one out, so I was really, really happy with that. It was a little bit of a struggle. It wasn't super hard. I think in the end I could have hit that 215 kilo one with a bit more of an effort than the 210 cook, but 220 might have been a little overreach for me on that day. It might not have been doing the competition justice, or maybe myself justice, people might say, not going for the heavier lifts on the day. But like I said, I don't want to burn out before the next competition or overstress myself before the next competition and force me to take a deload or something like that I don't need to as part of my plan. In the end, the whole day was great. I PB'd or lifted my heaviest amount in all 3, more than my previous heavy amounts in all 3 lifts. That wasn't the original plan going in. The only one I was sort of planning on doing it, the only one I was not planning on doing that for was my squat, because of how it felt. I was going to stop at 172.5 and leave it there. The Deadlift, I was planning on doing 205, which is what I'm thinking about opening with at my next competition. So that was going to be my opener. That was thinking about leaving that as my max. But after they were all moving quite well and actually very well, I went up a little bit too much in the bench press. That's what happens when you overreach. But still already having a 2.5 PB there wasn't the worst thing that could have happened. So in the end, I had a total increase from my previous competition from what was that? So 7.5, so 12.5 kilo increase. I did 175, that's 2.5. 2.5. So we've got to work this out there. Mass, strong. 2.5 in the bench, 2.5 in the squat, so that's 5, and 7.5 in the deadlift. So 12.5 kilo increase on my total, so that's pretty good. And a 2.5 PB in my squat, 2.5 kilogram personal best in my squat and my bench, and a 7.5 kilo personal best in my deadlift. So overall, the day was pretty great. I had a really good day. So my competition goal, or my actual goal for what I want to do for the next competition, is pretty much the following. So it's lift a total of 500 kilos. That's my competition goal. I'll go into what my lift goals are next week when I do a bit more about the upcoming comp and stuff in my diary next week. But my totals for my total, I want to just get past the 500 kilogram mark and then move on from there. My goal then for next year is to hit about the 550 kilo mark for a total. And that's what I'm going to be training towards for doing that next year. That's a 10% increase in my total. If I hit my total next week, which I will in 3 weeks' time, I'm quietly confident, unless something strange happens in the meantime or I have a bad day on the day, which they're always not out of the realms of possibility. I'm going to get that total up. So in saying that, once again, I would like to thank everyone that helped out at the competition this weekend. Great day, great group of people. I really enjoyed it. It was a really, really good day and a really, really well-run competition. I can't thank BJ and Jac enough, and BJ especially for lending me his belt. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Also, the staff, once again, I know I've thanked them before, but it goes without saying that a lot of the stuff that gets done in powerlifting, from what I've seen in my short time that I've been in it, is very volunteer-based, and a lot of these competitions wouldn't happen without those volunteers. So thank you to everyone that did that, from the people working at the officials table, to the judges, to the spotters especially, that keep us safe when we're out on the floor. It's very much appreciated. The advice given to me from the judges and stuff that through the competition, that was much appreciated as well. The support from the people, spotters on the stage, and that's also very important. It makes a little bit of a difference when you're out there that you don't think it does. But those boys getting behind you and egging you on, you can hear them up there, so that's great. To the people that did the commentating this weekend for the YouTube, I know from my mum that she really enjoyed that part of it. She liked the fact that there was someone there commentating the competition. It made it a bit more entertaining for her, and it made the watching of it a little bit easier. She enjoys watching powerlifting as it is anyway, which is strange. Not ever being a lifter herself, my mother, but she quite enjoys watching it. It's easy to watch. It's good fun to watch, and she can egg everyone on. And she was really, really impressed with how many ladies there were lifting in the competition. She thought that was wonderful. Her words exactly. She thought it was wonderful. And lastly, I'd like to thank my partner, Sharon, for taking those videos of me through the day and being there to support me. I'm only lifting the shaft to you, baby. No, you being there is super important to me. It makes me feel a little bit special, and I reckon without you being there, I don't think I would do as well as I do. So thank you very much, baby. I love you and appreciate you for doing it. Alrighty. So for this week, that'll be it. I'll sign off and just let you all remind you all that I'm also a personal trainer. I train people from my gym at home, simple strength training. Have a look in the description below for all my socials there to get contacted on. Have a great week, people, and hopefully you'll tune in and have a bit of a sit down and listen to me next week. Have fun staying strong for life.